Hey, Margie here. Did you know that there's an amino acid called GABA that can significantly reduce anxiety and help your bones? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today with our very special guest, Trudy Scott. And Trudy Scott is known as the food mood expert. She's a nutritionist who educates anxious individuals about nutritional solutions for anxiety. She is known for her expertise in the use of targeted individual amino acids, providing education and guidance on the safe and effective use of GABA for the physical type of anxiety and tension, and tryptophan for the worry, ruminating type of anxiety. Trudy also educates about nutritional solutions for the social anxiety condition called pylorrhea and the harmful effects of benzodiazepines. She's the author of the Anti-Anxiety Food Solution, How the Foods You Eat Can Help you calm your anxious mind, improve your mood, and end cravings, and the host of the Anxiety Summit, an online educational platform for both consumers and health professionals. And she also educates health professionals via the Anxiety Nutrition Institute, sharing research and practical how-to steps. She's passionate about sharing this information because she was able to eliminate her anxiety and panic attacks using this approach. So I'm so excited for this talk because a lot of us just don't know about GABA and how it can really be a life changer. So lots of information. Stay tuned. Welcome, Trudy. I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast.
Hi, Margie. I'm just thrilled to be here.
You know, I've been asking you how many years has it been to come on the podcast, and you are just such a busy person. You've been on the summit, so I'm so grateful for that. But yay, I've got you come back, you come on the podcast because I truly love the work you do. The research on GABA, I can't wait till we really dig into this because it can have so many effects on our bones. I'm so excited. And most people, Trudy, aren't aware of this. And these are easy things that people can add to their life. So I'm just so excited. And again, just thank you. Thank you for joining me here today. So let's just start with a quick overview. You know, we're going to talk about GABA for anxiety and osteoporosis. So why don't you just fill us in on why I'm so psyched up?
So GABA is an amino acid. It's a calming amino acid, and it's also a neurotransmitter. And what is incredible is that using GABA as a supplement can give you a relief from a lot of your anxiety symptoms very quickly. And we're going to talk more about how to figure out if GABA might be for you and how you might use it. But the exciting thing is that I really want to talk about today, in conjunction with anxiety, is the fact that there is some new research showing that GABA can help if you have osteoporosis. So as you know, Margie, a lot of people, when they get their diagnosis for osteoporosis, they've got that fear and that worry and that, you know, you're just imagining the worst. And, you know, maybe you've got anxiety beforehand and now you get this diagnosis and you're even more fearful. So the exciting thing about GABA is it's going to help if you, you have always had anxiety. It's going to give you that relief. But if you get that added anxiety and worry and fear, and even maybe a panic attack when you discover that you've got this osteoporosis diagnosis, because it can be really scary. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story in a second. But the great thing is it's going to help with some of that fear, and it's going to start to improve bone health as well, which I think is just so exciting. And I'm always blown away by the research on GABA and how many conditions it can help. And when you invited me to be on this podcast, I thought I'm going to go and see if there's any new research on osteoporosis and GABA. And sure enough, there is. So I'm really excited to be sharing this today.
Yeah, that's the thing. And for some reason, I just don't know why it's not used more. I mean, it's not something you'll go to the doctor and they're like, oh, let's give you GABA because that can help. You know, it's just not something that's considered, and it's so powerful. So, you know what, Trudy, though, I always love hearing about your story and, you know, what happened with your osteoporosis and how fearful you felt. And you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes. So I will give kudos to you. I discovered that I have osteoporosis because of you and your amazing summits. I remember you asked me to, if I would like to share your first osteoporosis summit with my community. And I said, yes, I think this is going to be very valuable for my community. So, of course, whenever I'm speaking on a summit or sharing it with my community, I listen to interviews, and I thought, well, I need to be proactive. I'm going to go and get my bone density test done so I can, make sure that everything's good. And I was absolutely shocked at the results. I've been an active athlete my whole life, running, trail running, hiking with heavy backpacks overnight, 4-day hikes, skiing into huts with backpacks on. And, I've been I just thought, oh, well, I'm going to be fine. So, of course, when I discovered my osteoporosis diagnosis, I was shocked and I was quite frankly afraid. I just thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to ride my mountain bike? How am I going to do downhill skiing? What if I fall and break my hip? I don't want to be bedridden. So all these things go through your mind. And I did what I always do and what I teach my clients to do. If I happen to be a GABA person, so I have always had anxiety, and I use GABA, and I also use tryptophan to help keep my anxiety at bay. But what I did is I bumped up my GABA level, my GABA dosing, and I bumped up my tryptophan dosing because this is what I recommend in times of added stress and situational anxiety. And it helped me. It helped me stop the spinning and the fear. And I was able to focus and educate myself about my DEXA, my CTX, my P1NP, homocysteine, CRP, and all of that. Everything that I'd learned about during your summit. I started reading books. I've actually just started Belinda Beck's Neuro program, which I learned about from your summit, which is amazing.
Really?
Went through all it. Yes, I love it. It's absolutely fantastic.
April, how fantastic is that, right? We're empowered and so strong. Yeah.
I know, it's amazing. So a little bit about my background is, as I said, I've had anxiety for a long time, but in my late 30s, I started to get increasingly anxious, and it just ramped up out of the blue. And I hadn't really thought I was anxious before this time. I was just how I lived, I had a bit of social anxiety, and I just sort of pushed through and dealt with it. But in my late 30s, it got really, really bad, and it was a perfect storm of gluten issues and heavy metals and a poor diet. I was eating vegetarian diet at the time, and low GABA and hormone changes. But I got onto GABA as an individual amino acid, and it completely changed my life. I call myself a GABA girl. I used tryptophan, I used DPA, I used other amino acids, individual amino acids, and it completely eliminated the anxiety. And there's a few other sort of root causes there. I also have pyroluria, which is you have a higher need for zinc and vitamin B6. Those nutrients actually help you to make GABA. They actually help with joint health and everything as well. But long story short is getting on these nutrients, addressing my biochemistry, eliminated the anxiety or kept it, at bay. And now when I discovered I had osteoporosis, I just increased it short term just to give me that added relief during the stressful situation. And now, with the information that I have all the facts. I've been reading books. I did Dr. Kim Millman's programs. I've been listening to your podcast. I feel empowered, as you say, and I know that I can get through this. But I will say that using the GABA was amazing because it just gave me that relief, so I could just pause and just say, okay, I've got this. I can figure this out. Because if you've got that low GABA levels or low serotonin levels, you're spinning, you're ruminating, you're imagining the worst, you just negative self-talk, you're just thinking, you're obsessing about it, you may not be sleeping at night, but using these amino acids that we're going to talk about now, we're going to talk about specifically about GABA, it just gives you that ease. So now you don't feel so fearful, and you feel empowered, and you can actually get something done.
Oh, I love what you said, Trudy, and it's so true because, so many people live with anxiety, and so many people, especially they get this diagnosis, they are so fearful, and these thoughts just keep going through your head. What's going to happen? Will I fall? And, it goes on and on. And a lot of people think that they have to take antidepressants but people don't realize that there is this amazing, we can use GABA and it's so powerful. So let's actually go back to what GABA is. And, how do you know? How would a person know if their levels are low? So why don't you just talk about GABA? Because again, it's just not something you go to the doctor. Oh, maybe you should get some GABA or your amino acid. It's just not something that's talked about, but yet it's easy to do and so powerful, as you said.
It is. And I'm really glad you mentioned antidepressants. So I want to just mention antidepressants, benzodiazepines, which are commonly prescribed for anxiety. And also, you said you go to the doctor and they won't recommend GABA, but they'll often recommend gabapentin, which is an antipsychotic medication, is often recommended. And a lot of people get confused. They think gabapentin is the same as GABA, so it's not the same thing. So I'll give you a little bit of clarification there. But I wanted to just go back to what I said about thanking you for getting me on this journey, because I was telling you my story and I didn't really give, a pause to say thank you for educating me about this. And so I just want to say thank you, Margie. You're just
Trudy,
amazing.
I'm so happy because that's my goal. My goal is to take osteoporosis just like you've done. I mean, it's really an example and look at it as an opportunity. Okay, what's going on? Let's look at root causes. Then when you deal with them, everything gets better. So now you're going to be this really powerful woman. Well, you're very welcome, but thank you for acknowledging that. And that makes me happy to hear about people being able to, take the diagnosis and make the changes and improve their life. It just, brings a smile to my face. So you're so welcome and thank you.
I know. And then, doing this neuro training, for folks who don't know, it's lifting heavy weights and it's doing impact training in a very structured way. And I know anyone who already knows you and has been listening to your podcast, definitely go and listen to Belinda Beck. She's amazing. But it's going to have far-reaching benefits other than just osteoporosis, important for heart health and actually important for mental health as well. So, and then helping with balance and everything. So there's just so many benefits. So yeah, it's exciting. So let's go back to the question, what GABA is, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of those medications. So let's just start with the medication part first, because a lot of people are prescribed antidepressants, and I know you've talked about this a lot with Dr. John Neustadt. The SSRIs or antidepressants have a direct adverse impact on the bones, so we need to be aware of that. And then benzodiazepines, which don't actually, these are the anti-anxiety medications like Ativan or Xanax. They don't actually have an direct impact on the bones, but they can affect your balance. So if you have osteoporosis and you've got balance issues because of benzodiazepines and you fall, that's not a good thing. And GABA is a better choice. I'll just give you some feedback from someone in my community. I've taken Xanax in the past for panic attacks. My functional medicine doctor suggested GABA Calm as I wanted a natural product. I was amazed at how it works, just like the Xanax did. Instant calm feeling within 10 minutes of taking 2 capsules. So many people have compared both of them. There was actually just a paper, Margie, that came out about 3 months ago where they compared benzodiazepine with GABA and theanine and found them to be comparable. So we are now actually getting research comparing them. And then the other one is gabapentin, which is often prescribed for anxiety, insomnia, and pain issues. And a lot of people get confused and say, is it the same as GABA? And it's not. So GABA is an amino acid, stands for gamma amino butyric acid. It is also a calming neurotransmitter. So when your GABA neurotransmitter levels are low, you use this supplement called GABA, and that raises your GABA levels, and then it eases these symptoms of low GABA. And let me just share what those symptoms are. Physical tension. So there's different types of anxiety related to neurotransmitter levels. So low GABA anxiety is slightly different from low serotonin anxiety. And let me just explain the difference. So with low GABA, it's the physical tension. So you'll feel it in your shoulders, in your neck. You may be sitting like this. You may feel this fear in the pit of your stomach. You may have stiff and tense muscles. You also going to feel overwhelmed, panic attacks. There's also some research, and I'm getting clinical feedback saying that if you've got low GABA levels, you can have these intrusive thoughts. You can have sleep problems, pain issues. And then, of course, you'll also have cravings for sugar and carbs. And this is when you stress eat because your GABA is low. And then you self-medicate with alcohol in order to feel calm. So, of course, that sugar and that alcohol is not good for bone health, not good for mental health, not good for overall health. But what I do is I have clients rate their symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10, and I do this in my group programs. I do this if I'm working with someone one-on-one. Rate their symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10, take some GABA, and I'll talk a little bit about different forms of GABA and dosing in a second, but take some GABA and see what symptoms ease and how much they go down. So, for example, you may have physical tension and anxiety is maybe a 10 out of 10, and you've got these you crave sugar for when you're stressed. Maybe that's an 8 out of 10. You take some GABA, and you should say, it went from a 10 out of 10 to maybe a 6 out of 10. Now you know that GABA is something that is worth pursuing. And then what we do is we fine-tune the dosing. We'll increase and increase and increase so we can get it from a 10 to a 6 to a 4 to a 2 and ideally to a 0. And it is possible to get that anxiety down and the physical tension down to a 0. And you'll start to see the other symptoms that you may have checked off start to improve as well. You'll start to see the cravings go down. You may see the sleep problems improve. Those intrusive thoughts will go away. And now you're not going to be lying in bed thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do the sports that I love to do? What if I fall and break my hip? Because you are addressing the low GABA symptoms. And the great thing is, if it is low GABA, you're going to get that relief very quickly. If it's some low GABA and some low serotonin, then we'll layer on serotonin support next. And I said I'd differentiate between low GABA and low serotonin. With low GABA, it's mostly physical. With low serotonin, it's more in your head. So it's more the worry, it's more the ruminations, it's more the obsessing, but you'll also have panic attacks, you'll also have sleep problems, you can also have pain. There's also rage and anger issues that happen with low serotonin. And the cravings are slightly different. With GABA, it's sort of stress eating. With the cravings with low serotonin, it's afternoon and evening cravings and a little bit of negative self-talk. So there's some, figuring out which one it is. But I like to do one at a time. And then you're identifying these symptoms, you're taking GABA, you're seeing what the results are, and you know that it is GABA. If you do too many at once, you don't really know which is affecting things.
Trudy, I just can't get over what I love about the amino acids is 10 minutes. How many things can you get relief from in 10 minutes? It's really quite amazing.
Well, it's good that you say that because this woman actually swallowed 2 capsules, so it took 10 minutes. My recommendation is to use a sublingual, to use a powder, to use a liposomal, or to use a cream, and you can notice improvements within 30 seconds to 60 seconds. So up to 10 minutes. So you should notice results very quickly. Not total resolution, but you'll start to notice it. And if you notice that little improvement, and you get better results when you use it sublingually. Some people don't get any results when they swallow it. So I always recommend doing it the sublingual method, or opening the powder, opening a capsule onto your tongue, or using the powder. And you can get these results very quickly. And when even 10 minutes sounds amazing. I mean, 60 seconds is just mind-blowing. It really is incredible. And then you've got hope. You've got hope right away. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling better. Now I can deal with this diagnosis. I can deal with what life is throwing at me because there's always going to be something going on.
Yeah, how wonderful to have a safe alternative and, that can work really right away, which is just incredible. But you have to now share, Trudy, this is so exciting, about how GABA can improve bone health, because I love sharing new research and things that people really have no idea about.
Yes. So this was a paper published in 2023, and it is an animal study. So this is early days, but we love the research that's starting to, get more and more researchers interested in the research and publishing further research. I will just say that the GABA research is just exploding. There's just new papers all the time. But this one's the title of the paper, gamma-aminobutyric acid mediated bone formation and its implications for an anti-osteoporosis strategy, exploring the relation between GABA and GABA receptors. So I'll just read a few things here. Before I do that, one medication that I didn't mention that I know you've talked about during your summits and on your podcast is cortisol, or prednisolone, which is a corticosteroid medication that is often prescribed to people who've got rheumatoid arthritis and other issues. And as you've shared, it affects bone health directly. It affects, it can increase osteoporosis. And in this paper, what they're saying is that GABA countered the adverse effects of corticosteroid on vertebral formation, bone density, and osteogenic gene expression in zebrafish larvae, suggesting a promising therapeutic solution to counteract corticosteroid-induced osteoporosis. They talk about it mitigates these detrimental effects of corticosteroids on bone health. And their conclusion is that targeting GABA and its receptors could be a promising strategy for the development of novel therapeutic interventions to address osteoporosis. And they recommend further investigations to understand the underlying mechanism on how it might be working. So just that is amazing. And there was a little bit more I wanted to
say something about
yes,
that.
go ahead.
So many people, Trudy, are on inhalers. I mean, so many people their whole lives, children, are taking, corticosteroids, and it's a real problem. So just imagine if that was a way to mitigate it and to really reduce the negative effects. It's incredible. So exciting. And I'm sure now, hopefully they'll be doing, more research, because it's a big problem. And yeah, I think it's so exciting.
And even if it's what I suspect what we're going to find is that it's going to have benefits outside of just when someone is on a corticosteroid. But as you say, many people are. But we know that it lowers stress levels. We know that it helps with high cortisol. We know that it is needed to improve progesterone levels. We know that there's so many benefits to GABA. It counters fluoride-induced thyroid damage. It counters liver damage caused by fluoride. So GABA has so many benefits. So we're going to see further mechanisms as to why this is actually working. But in this paper, they talk about and I'll let you explain it in English. I'm going to just read what this says. It stimulates the osteogenic differentiation in mesenchymal stem cells by inducing tumor necrosis factor alpha-induced protein 3.
Yeah, so the mesenchymal stem cells, they are in the osteoblasts. That's like the bone marrow, actually, and they turn into bone. So anything that can stimulate them is terrific. So that's
it is.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. The other thing, as you mentioned, is that, and there is research, there's human research on stress reducing the activity of the osteoblasts and increasing, bone breakdown in the activity of the osteoclasts, the cells that break down bone. So, it's always been something that I really focus on, that we can't ignore the stress. It's not something you can because most people do, Trudy. Most people are so worried. Are they doing the right exercises? Are they doing, what are they eating? Are they making sure they're getting the right supplements? And they're so focused on that. and all the stress they just don't pay attention to, but yet it's just as important as everything else. And that's what I've seen, being in this field for so long. So I love that there is something that can really help alleviate, some of this stress or
Yes.
the anxiety. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then just a few other things that we see when GABA is low. I mentioned the stiff and tense muscles. So anything to do with muscular issues like rectal spasms, laryngospasms, swallowing issues, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, when you've got that spasticity, GABA is helpful. Focus issues, because you're so anxious, you can't focus and you can't actually get stuff done. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's amazing the benefits that we see with GABA. So the fact that now we can add osteoporosis as something that we need to think about is just so exciting. And I know you're excited about it as well, because I certainly am.
I really am. Because this is, I also, we know working with osteoporosis isn't a quick fix or anything like that. But this is something easy to do. It's not something that is, the exercise piece we all love, but it's definitely a commitment and there's work involved with it, but it's great. But this is something that actually isn't hard to do as well. Hey, Margie here. As a physical therapist, I know firsthand how important exercise is for our bones, overall health, and happiness. And unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion on what exercises are safe and effective for people with osteoporosis. That's why I created this handout that contains a 30-minute video where I explain the concepts so you understand the do's and don'ts when it comes to exercise. And this is important because this way you can go into any class and know what you should be doing and what you should avoid. Because too many people are doing exercises that actually increase their risk of spinal fractures. I also included videos of me demonstrating effective balance, posture, and weight-bearing exercises you can put into your day right away. So all you need to do to access this handout, it's free, is go to tinyurl.com/osteoporosis exercises. So it's tinyurl.com, again, /osteoporosis exercises, or you can click the link in the show notes. Now back to the show. So how do we know? What do we need to know so that we can use GABA effectively and safely? What are the important things that we should all know about?
So the important thing is that it's used according to your own needs. And I want to just emphasize something based on a question you asked before we started. This is not the same as using an amino blend. It's not the same as using a free-form amino acid, which is great because often we need that because it's pre-formed and it's easily digested. This is using GABA as a supplement on its own according to your needs. And the way we know that you possibly may need it is doing the symptoms questionnaire, rating the symptoms, doing that trial, and then adjusting. So I recommend starting low, 125 milligrams, and less if you are very, very sensitive. So some of my clients will just open up a capsule and they'll just do that, and they'll do a dab. That's how much they need. Too many people start with 500 milligrams, 750 milligrams, and it's way too much. Unfortunately, a lot of the products you get will say 500 milligrams twice a day, 750 milligrams, twice a day or at night. It's just way too much for most people.
And then what happens, Trudy, what happens if it's too much? What will you experience?
So if you have too much, you'll get like a nice and tight flush. And it's very uncomfortable. And if you're already anxious and you start to get this flush, it's not giving you that red flush like you do with niacin, but you get a tingle. You might feel a little bit dizzy. You're going to feel a little bit weird. And it's not pleasant the first time it happens. It does pass within 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. There is an antidote. Vitamin C is the antidote, which takes away the negative effects. But, and then a lot of people do start with the high dose and they get put off. I had a weird experience. I'm never going to use GABA again. So I'm really about educating about how to use it safely, effectively. The other things that I recommend, as I mentioned, is the way it's used. Swallowing does not seem to work for most people. If it does, it takes takes longer and you need higher doses. So sublingual that you just suck on, using a powder or opening the capsule. So if you've got a 500 milligram capsule, you would open it up and you divide it into smaller doses according to what you need. There's also GABA cream, which is very helpful for a lot of people, certainly for older people, for kids. You can put cream on your belly if you have IBS. There's a liposomal, which has GABA and theanine. Combining GABA with theanine can be helpful for some people. And then you track as you increase the dose and see your symptoms come down. You're keeping track of what's going on. You might add in a different product. You might add in a different form. So you get, as I said, you can get results in 30 seconds to 10 minutes. And for some people, they'll take one sublingual and that's it. Their anxiety's gone and they just feel amazing. But for a lot of people, we've got a lot of health issues going on. We may have Lyme disease as well. We may have some kind of other diagnosis. We may have alcohol issues, whatever it is. We've got different things happening and there can be nuances. So sometimes it can take a few weeks to fine-tune the dosing, the timing, the different forms. And that's why I love to do, my group programs where I'm guiding people through how to use it so they can ask questions, they can fine-tune. I will just share one of the biggest questions I get, Margie, is how could GABA possibly work if it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier? Or if it does work, does it mean I've got a leaky blood-brain barrier? And that's a myth. Both of those are myths. And I really want to, educate people that if you use it properly in the forms that I'm talking about here, it does work. And if you're skeptical, try it yourself. If you have low GABA, so if you don't have the low GABA symptoms, you don't want to try it because then it's going to be like you're taking too much. But try it yourself if you have these low GABA symptoms. Ask anyone who has success. I just love this comment from someone in my community. GABA changed my life in minutes. I take it every day now. No more hopelessness. So, I'm just excited about getting this information out there. So I really appreciate you having me on your podcast to talk more about this, Margie.
Oh, well, I just love this information because as we talked about, too many people are just thrown on. I mean, there's a huge amount of people on antidepressants and people don't know there's another option. And so I think this is So if someone's on antidepressants, though, should they work with their doctor in terms of if they wanted to test out the GABA? What do you tell people in that situation for people who are on?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's no direct documented contraindication with GABA or these medications, but with any supplement, if someone is on a medication, I always recommend that they discuss with their doctor so their doctor knows what they're doing. Now, if someone is doing an anti-anxiety medication and maybe they're also on gabapentin and they add in GABA calm, it could be too calming. It could be too sedating. It's going to be dangerous for them to drive. But there's no documented contraindication, and that may just be that there hasn't been because there hasn't been a study comparing, taking them together. So we do need to just be cautious and just discuss with the doctor and be aware that the doctor may poo-poo GABA. They might say, no, it's not going to work. They might say, oh, it's the same as gabapentin. And you just need to be educated and let them know that it's not.
So Trudy, I am so excited because, for a lot of people listening, they're sort of afraid to do this on their own and they would like some guidance. And, I love the fact that now you have programs. So you want to share? I know you have a webinar coming up. I know you have a 5-week GABA Quick Start program. You want to just share what you have so people can see what's possible?
Yes, thanks, Margie. And as you say, for some people, it's challenging to do on your own, especially if you're feeling anxious, because now you've got to make these changes and figure this out on your own. And for folks who can do that, that's great. I've got my book, The Anti-Anxiety Food Solution, and there's a lot of people who take my book and run with it and get amazing results. But there are some people who just need that in-depth guidance. They want to come and ask questions. So I've got a 5-week GABA Quick Start program. And we have a lot of content sharing about exactly how to identify your low GABA symptoms. I talk more about some of the mechanisms and more about the blood-brain barrier and then which products I recommend. I have 5 to 8 top products that I recommend, and I'll go into detail on why you might want to consider this one versus that one in terms of effectiveness and also convenience. Some people don't want to use a powder. Other people don't want to swallow pills anymore. Some don't like the taste or the texture of the sublingual. So I'll talk all about that. I also talk about other products that we might add in with GABA, like theanine and taurine, and then exactly how to do a trial. I've got a trial sheet on and guide you through how to do the trial and how to track. And then a weekly Q&A call where you can come and ask your questions. So as you're going through this, you can get the questions answered, and we can figure out if GABA is going to help calm your anxious mind, ease that physical tension and overwhelm, the feelings of panic, and help you sleep through the night. And then you get that side benefit of the reduced sugar cravings and no more self-medication with alcohol. And then I also talk about clinical pearls and how to use GABA to give you those quick results, why your GABA may be low, precautions, troubleshooting. So it's everything that I've dreamt of in terms of being able to offer support to people who need this guidance. And I'd like to just share a few little, some feedback from some of the people who've been in the last program, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. But before you do that, so basically what you're saying is that when people listen to this and go through the symptoms, if they have those would be the people who'd be the candidates for this program?
Yes, and I'll recap what those are. So if you have anxiety and it's physical, you can feel the tension in your neck, in your belly. You may have stiff and tense muscles. You feel overwhelmed. You feel fearful, you have intrusive thoughts, you have sleep issues, you may have pain issues. Obviously, osteoporosis would be a factor to consider. You may have some of those other symptoms I talked about, the laryngospasms, rectal spasms, PCOS, hormonal imbalances. All of those would be factors to consider whether GABA might be something that might help you.
Okay, so yes, tell us. I'd love to hear what has happened from these people who attended.
Yes, I shall do that. And you know what I'll do, Margie? Why don't I give you a link to the symptoms questionnaire, and you can include that with the podcast.
Perfect.
How does that sound?
I think that's a great idea, so people can really assess, is this something that they're dealing with that they had no idea?
Yeah, and also the list grows. As new research comes out, I add to the list, and I will be adding osteoporosis to the list because it's something that I've just looked at the research in preparation for this podcast. So I will be adding that there as well. But so I'll share that with you. And then just some feedback. Someone said, GABA helped me a great deal. I'm so thankful the thoughts that would just play like a record in my head went away. And because of that release, I'm now more at peace and relaxed. Someone else says, I'm so pleased I did this program. I take GABA powder 3 times a day. It helped the anxious feeling right away. From a 5 or a 6 out of 10 to a 1 or a 2 out of 10. And then someone else, I only take GABA at night when I know I need it to quiet my mind and relax my body so I can sleep better. So it's exciting, and thanks for letting me share. And I hopefully this is something that will help some of the people in your community, Margie.
Oh, absolutely. I know there's many people actually, Trudy, who unfortunately do suffer with these different issues that you mentioned. And you want to just share what the webinar is? Because I know you also have a webinar coming up.
Yes, so we've got a webinar coming up February the 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I'm going to be talking about going into more detail on what we've talked about today, specifically about GABA, and how you might, to give you more clarification as to whether this might be something for you. So we're going to just talk just on GABA to give you more clarification and help you decide if this is something that might be for you. And then we're going to do another one on February the 13th, where we're going to talk more about anxiety and insomnia. And February the 20th, we're going to talk more about anxiety and sugar cravings. Because for some people, it's just anxiety. For others, insomnia is a really big factor that's affecting their lives. And for other, the sugar cravings, the emotional eating, the self-medicating with alcohol is a big issue for them as well. So we'll have 3 different focuses, and you're welcome to join all 3 of them if you'd like to, and learn on all 3, and then make that decision as to whether you want to join the program and get that one-on-one guidance in terms of being able to ask your questions during the Q&A call. And I do want to just say, Margie, I'm keeping the groups small, so it's very hands-on, very high touch, so you do get your questions answered. All the questions get answered.
Oh, I love that. I love that you have, these webinars that you can really give people information, and truly, just everybody listening, I mean, there's really nobody who's delved into this like Trudy. She's been doing, how many years, Trudy, have you been working with the amino acids?
15 years now.
Yeah. So really, you are the amino acids expert, and you've helped so many people, and, so many lives have been changed. So I'm so grateful to you for just making such a difference in the world. And, it always just amazes me that it's not the first line of defense. People will get put on antidepressants when this isn't even a thought. People just don't even realize this is possible. So it's just so exciting, and I love that you have this program, because support's really important. That's what I found. I found with having a community and not doing something alone is it really helps motivate you, and it's just you need the tools and the support team, and that's when things can really for some, I mean, for a lot of people, some people are able to do things on their own, but I found
I agree. And I've had so many people in the last program saying that exactly that. I do not feel alone. I realize I'm not alone when they're hearing what other people are saying, the questions that other people ask, because you can come and ask your questions, but hearing other people's questions, you learn so much, and then you realize you're not alone, that there are other people going through this. So I love doing the group programs because of that community aspect, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. Thanks, Margie.
I do too. I love group programs because it's a certain energy. It's a certain energy when everybody's working towards the same goal, and everybody wants you to succeed, and you want to succeed. But even when it like sort of supercharges your own wishes, and it just seems that everybody seems to benefit from that. So
Absolutely.
That.
And then, Margie, you reminded me that I must mention that if you miss this, if you're listening to this in a few months' time, it will be repeated. So the GABA program gets repeated every few months. There's going to be a serotonin program that gets repeated every few months. So if you go to the website and it's already happening, there is a wait list, so you can get on for the next one. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and we'll have that in the show notes. So if it's past this one, then you can just get on the wait list, so that people will have that ability. Because the truth is, Trudy, is that sometimes, if you're having these negative thoughts, and people can be so mean to themselves. Oh my gosh, why am I thinking this? What's wrong with me? It is sort of reassuring to know that you aren't alone, and there is hope. And that's, I think that's like your message really, is that there's hope, and then when there's a lot that can be done, and it's very exciting. So
yes.
Anything else you want to share? I'm just so excited about this because it's, again, I just know people are going to be helped, and you're the person to work with on this.
No, that's great. And as I said, there's the program. If that's the way that you feel like you need to get results, because you want to get results. You don't want to just, white knuckle it and just tolerate it. We all deserve to feel our absolute best all the time. And too often we wait until things get really bad. I know with me, I was getting increasingly anxious. I was working in corporate America when my anxiety started, and then I had a panic attack, and I had no idea what it was. So we don't want to wait until it gets that bad. Because so often we're taking care of everyone else and we don't take care of ourselves. So I just wanted to say that. But then I also, there's the book, The Anti-Anxiety Food Solution. My blog is a wealth of information. My Facebook page, there's a lot of great discussions going there. And if you're a practitioner, I do have practitioner training as well on how to use the amino acids. And I would just love all practitioners to be using these amino acids in their communities, because it just makes it easier for folks to implement the changes, the dietary changes, to not feel so overwhelmed, to not feel like they're stressing about things when they're just feeling calm, and they're able to quit the sugar, they're able to quit the alcohol without having to white knuckle it or use willpower. So I'm trying to cover the gamut, helping individuals who have anxiety, and then also helping practitioners so they can help more people.
Wow, I love all of this, Trudy. I just think it's so wonderful. And thank you so much for being here. Any last minute things before we end?
Just do what feels good for you, and just remember you deserve to feel your absolute best every single minute.
Couldn't agree more. So thanks so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure being with you.
Thanks, Margie.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Trudy as much as I did, and now have an idea about GABA and how that can be used for anxiety as well as helping our bones. So all the links that Trudy talked about to her programs as well as her webinars will be in the show notes. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.